Hello, and welcome to our extended disc mini webinar. Today, we're going to be focusing on our very popular, very relevant report called the Remote Worker Self-Study Workbook. My name is Christina Bowser, and I'm the training director here at Extended Disc. And joining me today is my colleague, Markku Kauppanen, president of Extended Disc North America. Hi, Markku.
Hi, Christina. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Just quick logistics. We do record this, so you can refer back to it later. Questions and answers. We encourage your questions, but unfortunately, we don't have time during the webinar to answer them. So put them in the Q&A or the chat box, and we'll be sure to follow up after the webinar. So I am not kidding when I say how relevant this workbook is. In fact, I actually ran the results for myself. So what I asked Markku to kind of come and speak today is to give you an introduction to this Remote Worker Self-Study Workbook. So Markku, take it away.
Yeah, sounds good. We developed this assessment before we knew anything about coronavirus. We started this early this year. I think it was the 15th of January this year. And of course, unfortunately, we are in the situation we are worldwide right now that a lot of us are working remotely because of the pandemic. But the idea when we started the development process is that more and more of our clients were looking for this kind of a tool because many of their employees were working remotely already. So we did a lot of research and wanted to really create an assessment that is very much a self-guided kind of assessment that individuals who are working from home can use it alone, but also can be used with the help of a facilitator. And it's still based on the same DISC questionnaire. So the good news is that if you have employees, if you have clients who have already completed the questionnaire, and now you find in a situation where they are working remotely, and you're wondering how you can help them, how you can motivate them, how you can make sure that they're still productive and feel engaged and like their employer is really continually investing in their development, here's a great way to do it, because you can reorder the results in this format and it doesn't cost you anything. Only thing you have to do is reach out to us and say, hey, please upload this to my Things portal, and you're ready to go. So about the tool itself, it's like Christina said, I did ran my results in this format, which is kind of unusual because when we create some of the other assessments, I always have a pretty good idea what the results will look like because I've been doing this so long. But from my assessment, I really actually got a lot of information. So Christina, I'm happy to hear you did the same.
Yeah, you know, quite honestly, I usually don't run reports either, like Markku said, but I don't know if you can see this, Markku, but it's like dog-eared, it's written on, I have my action plan in the back. I mean, I really went through it and used it. And one of the things we as trainers always do is we encourage you to use the reports, not just as kind of a sharing of information, but actually getting into it, really thinking about how you can tie your real world into the information that you have. And this workbook really makes it easy.
And it is a workbook. It's an assessment, of course, but it's a workbook. And the idea is that because there is a lot of content in there, you cannot really consume it at one time. It's really a working document that you will use, and you can really use it to focus on specific areas of the challenges of the remote work that we all face, and make it a process of getting accustomed to this new type of a work life setting, and also to really continue to develop and find out, hey, I can make the best out of this situation. And all the research shows, by the way, kind of a remote work will be here to stay, not obviously to the extent that it's today, but a lot of the organization will continue to have more remote workers. So it's a very timely assessment, as you said, Christina.
So Markku, let's go ahead and just highlight some of the sections of the report itself. Let's start with, I know that there are factors, and you can see them listed up here in the upper left corner: self-directiveness, self-discipline, self-motivation, self-communication, and self-care. The one I've asked Markku to highlight here is specifically self-discipline, but can you talk a little bit about what these key work factors are?
Yeah, the big picture is that the report essentially has three main sections, and one of them is the key work factors. One is what we call the key mental factors, and then the last one is the 3 areas of communication. And the first section with the key work factors, we are looking at different areas that in our research we found that are critical to remote employee success. And since you are familiar with the DISC assessment, so this really will be very intuitive for everybody, and it will be intuitive for the respondents. What we do in this key work factors section is that we look at 5 very specific important areas. And one of those is self-discipline. And as you can see on the screen, we are looking at what are some of the greatest strengths or comfort areas when it comes to self-discipline. That's the first section, everything colored in green. And then we also have areas that create more of a challenge, which are highlighted in red. So for example, for this person, if you look at the very first one, ignoring unnecessary details, that is a kind of a behavioral component that is going to be very easy for this individual. However, if you look at some of the red ones, like the very first one, communicating details in a logical way, that is something that, if important, this individual need to pay a particular close attention to and modify their behavior in order to succeed, again, if it's relevant to their situation.
Gotcha. As a remote worker, I apologize if you guys can hear my dog barking. So
it's all part of our lives today, so don't worry.
Exactly. So we talked, hopefully that gave you a little bit of an overview of the key work factors, and Mark, we talked about other factors as well. And this one I wanted to highlight was one of the key mental factors, of which there are 3: my attitude, my trustworthiness, and my adaptability. And the one we're highlighting for you today is specifically the my attitude section.
We all know that remote work creates unique challenges. Not having the face-to-face contact with our colleagues and be able to really brainstorm on different projects, talk to our manager, our team members, it makes it a lot more difficult in order to really work at the pace that we are often required to work. And these key mental factors are 3 areas that really are important to be successful in remote work. And just like the previous section, we use these behavioral components and use the very intuitive bar graph to show how comfortable or how much energy different behaviors will require. The section is very intuitive, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. The best way to really understand how it works, just contact us after the webinar and we'll email you a sample report. You see, it's very, very easy to understand.
And really for me, just from a personal standpoint, it's not something I actually gave a lot of thought to until I went through this workbook, is to think about how my style connects to, you know, these mental factors. And if we talk about aha moments going through the report, going through this particular section was one of those for me.
Yeah, when you think about this, and if you think about all DISC assessments in kind of a traditionally, they look at especially on how we communicate. Communication, of course, is a very important part of modifying behavior in order for us to be more successful with others. But especially in the sections of the key work factors and key mental factors, these are areas that at least I've never seen really be focused on in DISC theory-based assessments. And for me, really, one of the things that I really had those aha moments was in the key work factors when it came to, for example, the self-care area, which is really critical area, especially now that we talked about in other webinars before COVID-19, is that how our lives are pretty inter these days, personal, work life. But now this is really very interesting. It's like you have a dog there barking in the background. We have kids at home. It's almost impossible to separate. So we really need to take a good and a very different type of look who we are, what are our preferences, and most importantly, what can we do to modify behaviors and also modify our outlook of what's happening to succeed, to be able to sustain that kind of a productivity and remain engaged with not only with the organization, but our team members and our colleagues.
I totally agree with that. So the last factor that is highlighted in the report are the key contact factors. And you can again see the key contact factors here as how to communicate with you, how to communicate with your team, and how to initiate communication with others. And this one, we're just going to highlight just one of them, which is your communication style in general.
Yeah, it really, this is more familiar, this territory, if you will, when we are looking at preferences in this one when it comes to communication. How to communicate with you really is a guidance that we can provide to others how to be most effective with our natural behavioral style when we are in a remote work environment, how to be more effective with that. The second section looks into how do I communicate virtually effectively with my virtual team members. And the final section in the communication areas comes look at how do I initiate communication when it's not face-to-face anymore. It might be in a Zoom like this, it might be via email, telephone. How do I successfully do that when I'm not able to do it face-to-face? So obviously communication, the importance of it in this kind of a remote work settings, virtual setting, becomes even more critical. And we want to highlight those different areas in order to help employees to succeed and continue to have effective communication, if not even better communication than before when we were working together in a close proximity of one another.
Yeah, and just a couple tips. You know, we did highlight some of the sections from the report itself, but some of the sections that you didn't see are actually the workbook sections where there are a lot of questions that you can answer to kind of help better understand how you approach working remotely. I highly suggest that you answer that. I myself showed you the where I did a lot of writing. It's called the My Summary and Action Plan in the back of the report. So really, you know, we always say there's so much information and you get a lot of aha moments, but how do you take that information and actually put it into practice? And that's what we did. We kind of built in these questions and these tips to kind of help you formulate your own action plan so that you understand, you know, what motivates you, kind of what drains your energy, what things do you tend to avoid. That self-care section that Marku talked about, things that we don't necessarily think about. You know, someone like myself who's an S-style, I can easily get distracted off my own task-oriented focus when somebody asks me to do something else. Not only is that from a team member, but that could be from my other family members that are working from home as well. And just, again, it's something that I probably know about myself, but it is just more conscious awareness. The other great thing is think of this as a way to reach back out. Marku talked about it, to connect back up with your clients, you know, because we are all working virtually. We might not have those face-to-face interactions that we normally do. And one of the things that we try to support you as trainers is how can you keep DISC alive? How can you continue to reinforce the practice of DISC and interacting with others to communicate successfully? And this is a great way to do it. You don't have to ask your clients to take any additional assessments. You simply just reorder this report, and it's a great way to connect to your clients that way.
Very well said, and so true. And like you said, it's a pretty substantial report, so there's a lot of information, and those workbook sections are really critical so we can do some reflection and think about how do I now work and succeed in this new work setting that so many of are dealing with. And if you want to get more information, just go to our website, extendeddisc.org, or email us or call us, and we'd be very happy to get you a sample report. If you already are a client and want us to upload this assessment into portal, by the way, Christina, I think so much we have uploaded like 500 of these to different clients in the past couple of weeks. So it's really taken off because people are struggling how to best help their employees. So if you want to do that or want to get a sample report, if you're not a client, just contact us, and extendeddisc.org, you find all that information. Also, while you're there, we have upcoming webinars. There's one coming up next week and many others down the road. On the top right-hand corner, there's a tab called Events. Click on there. You find all those upcoming webinars. be sure to register even if you can't make the date or time, because if you register, we will email you the recording so you can view it and share it at your convenience.
All right, so thank you everyone, and stay healthy and take care.
Thank you.